About 5 years ago, I noticed that there were some big trends in the community that were going to affect my business. And I started to watch those trends, and I saw they were happening very fast. So it could be something that's managed care, it could be globalization, it could be the way labor works. I knew that that was going to affect my business, it was going to affect all of our customers. So I began to watch these trends. And one of the trends I came across was an industry called 3D printing. For those of you that don't know much about 3D printing, we're going to discuss it in a little bit. We'll show you some pictures. But basically, it's a way of manufacturing. And what I believe, just like Rob Foster from TopCon, I believe that this is going to impact our business 10 and 15 and 20 years into the future in a way that nobody has imagined yet. And that's what we'll be talking about today. As soon as I get my clicker, though. There we go. Everybody remembers those two, or if you're not as old as me, you may not remember the 1964 World's Fair. I was 8 years old. My dad took me over to the AT&T spot, pavilion, and he said, David, you want to talk on the telephone? I said, Dad, I've done that before. He says, but you'll be speaking to someone in California. I'd never done that. But in fact, not only did I speak to somebody in California, I actually saw the other 8-year-old girl in California. That's not her, but that may be her mom. I was speaking on a video phone. Now today I can walk down Seattle and FaceTime my wife. That's 50 years ago, but time works quickly. Now, everyone remembers Marty McFly too, and the hoverboard. What you may not know is that there's a hoverboard company right now that Tony Hawk has used. He's a great skateboarder, but he has a hoverboard now. And my point would be that while we imagine all of these things at one point, all of them come true. Same thing is true in our own industry. There we go. Everybody remembers that one. So it's the invention of glasses. Probably close to about 1,000 years ago, maybe a little bit less. Wearing magnifying glasses. Then you have the famous Ben Franklin bifocals. And somewhere about 130 or 140 years ago, we have contact lenses. Somebody imagined that you'd be able to take a small particle, get it to correct your prescription and put it on your eye. And as well, somebody about 100 years ago said maybe the sun's rays are also harmful. And that's how we have Foster Grant. Most people might think sunglasses are all about fashion. But this gentleman, Mr. Foster, thought the sun's rays were harmful. And that's where we come. Where are we going? Each one of these was somehow disruptive, somehow new in our community. Where we're going is somewhere in 3D print land. Very, very different. The top picture you'll see is subtractive manufacturing. That's typical manufacturing. You take a large piece of material, you take away what you don't need. That's the way acetate frames are made today. Or you can do the bottom, which is additive manufacturing. You take only the material that you need. Only the material that you need, and you print exactly what you need, and you can print one at a time. So instead of an assembly line, everything gets done out of one machine. This is what the machine looks like. This is a very simple machine. It's not expensive. You can have it in your home. It's made by a company called MakerBot. They're not even in the optical business. And you'll notice on the top there's what looks to be like a head, and we're going to look at that printing in a couple of minutes. That moves back and forth according to computer design, and it can print anything. So, I'm not sure if you can see this exactly in the back, but what I like about this particular item, it doesn't look like much, it's a small desk item, but if you notice I can spin it around a bit. This is made in one piece in about an hour, and it can spin on the inside. Everything's limitless when you look at 3D printing. There's no limitations at all. The way 3D printing works is just like this. The print head goes back and forth. That small little wire you see on top is actually a piece of material that goes into the print head and gets melted. And you see on the bottom on that blue plate, I'm making a pair of temples. Those temples have a design, and the print head will go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, depositing that material. And that's exactly how we make 3D printed eyewear. Now, if it was just about eyewear that I was talking about, probably Dr. Kobler shouldn't ask me to be here. But we're not just talking about eyewear. We can do a lot of things with 3D printing, and it's going to impact our practices in different ways. We can make prototypes, we can make tools, we can do what I call short-run manufacturing, one at a time, or we can do direct digital manufacturing. We're going to look at all of those in the next little bit of time. First thing we're going to look at, though, is the easiest way for me to describe it and how I was interested in this. I can take a design, or I can take a picture on my iPhone of anyone's frame in this room, and I can send that to my office, and through a software called SolidWorks, we can get a 3D CAD, and that CAD can be made into a prototype like that. And that's wonderful because we can prototype anything, and if we make a mistake, we throw away that prototype and we start again. And that happens when we're making children's frames, for example. We want a particular fit. We can make a children's frame, try it on a whole host of children, see if it fits right. If it doesn't, we go back. Normally in manufacturing, that might take 3 to 8 weeks. Traditional manufacturing, which is called the CNC machine, is the subtractive manufacturer. If anybody has been in a large manufacturing facility that makes eyewear, you understand that we take small slabs, we cut everything away. The 3D printer, the one I just showed you, we do one at a time. Very, very different process. So why do I think that 3D printing is going to impact the practice? Because it's an unbelievable technology, and it's just getting better and better and better. Every 6 months, there's something new. This particular company is a company from Holland called Lux Excel. And it's not really a very pretty frame. But it's not the frame that I'm demonstrating, it's the lens. That's a 3D printed lens of optical quality. So it comes off that same machine, or a similar machine, the one that I showed you. So imagine that you make, in your office, 3D printed lenses in less than an hour. Kind of like what LensCrafter would say. Less than an hour, with all that great diagnostic equipment that Rob talked about, you'll be able to print a lens and be able to make a frame. That's not where it stops, though. Because this particular lens, everybody knows what it is, doesn't appear special to you. But this lens is 5 layers thick, made in Princeton, and is 3D printed. So imagine, at some point in the future, that you're going to make custom lenses and custom contact lenses in your office. And if you work for a large lens company or a large contact lens company, you might be thinking the industry is going to change. And that would be my position. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen in 5 years or even 10 years, but I do know that Princeton's working on it. And I also know that they actually have embedded in this particular lens electronics, similar to what you'd see in Google Glass. And because they have funding and because they have bright scientists, this is something that's going to happen. If you watch early morning television, if you watch the news, you've heard about 3D printing of human tissue. This, I think, is fascinating. The concept of printing human tissue. Now, on the upper portion, I think it's your left, good, is an ear. It's a fully functioning ear. And today, there are doctors that use 3D printing to make ears and attach them. The early tissues tend to be very simple. The eye is very complex. Very complex. Probably one of the most complex organs in the body. But there's a research facility in Italy right now that is working on producing a 3D printed eye, fully functioning eye. And their estimate is that the year 2027, which is 12 years, they'll be able to bring one to market. So I think that 3D printing is something that will affect our practices in every way. Now this happens to be a frame that I just did for demonstration purposes. So this is the frame, exactly as you see it. Now again, it may not be the most fashionable, maybe you don't think I look good in color red. But you can understand how the printer works. The print head goes back and forth, and the frame is built. You can build frames, fronts, temples, etc. In this particular instance, what I believe will happen is that offices will have printers. And I think when offices have printers, dispensaries have printers, it changes the nature of dispensing. Because this young woman can walk into our office and she can design a frame. She can say, I don't like that frame, I want to change the side a bit. I don't like that frame, it doesn't feel right, it pinches, it's too narrow. So our opticians will be customizing frames. But I think the bigger impact on the dispensary is when you combine technologies. So this one, everybody knows what that is. That's a virtual try-on technology. When you take a virtual try-on technology, which exists today, very easy to do, and facial recognition technology, which also exists today, very easy to do, you take lenses that can be printed in your office and frames that can be custom made in your office, and the nature of everything we do just changed. I would also say that our dispensary changed, because instead of having 1,000 frames or 2,000 frames, of which many don't fit, many don't meet the requirement, many are not in the fashion that the person walks in, many are not the right color. We now have some virtual try-on technology, we have facial recognition technology, and the 35,000 frames that are in frame data are now in our office. We often get calls at ClearVision for spare parts. One of those parts was printed. One of those parts is real. The pair of glasses I'm wearing now are made out of PLA, a plastic. Not a big deal. But we also print in wood, we print in metal, we print in rubber. So in the future, you'll be able to almost keep within warranty any frame that somebody has. Any broken parts can be fixed right in your office. Now this young gal is wearing a frame from a company that is using 3D printing right now for fashion purposes. The typical frame company might bring a frame to market, will take anywhere from 10 to 14 months. This company called Makita, M-Y-K-I-T-A, can bring a frame to market in a day. Imagine what can happen with fashion that way. Just like Zara can bring fashion in 30 days to the market for clothing, this company, Makita, can bring fashion to the market in 1 day. They're doing it right now. Excess inventory is gone, closeouts are gone, everything is different when you do 3D printing one at a time, and can be custom if you want. This slide I love. You look at it, it doesn't look like much, but it's also a 3D printer. This particular printer, though, is very special. It prints human skin. And it's currently in use by L'Oreal. So why is that interesting to anybody here? Well, L'Oreal, we know, is a large cosmetics company, and what a lot of cosmetics companies do is they test their products before it goes to market, and oftentimes they use animals, or they might use, in some instances, cadavers. But if you can print human tissue, skin, imagine what you can do. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's no contact lens company that's doing that right now, using a product like this to test their contact lenses. But I would imagine the first contact lens company that comes out with their testing procedure that doesn't involve animals will be highly promoting that, just like L'Oreal will do. I didn't know that Rob was connected with Topcon, but this is a Topcon edger. Everybody knows what our opticians do, and that's what this person's doing. But I believe what's going to happen with 3D printing is the careers in optics will change. And I believe opticians will be making frames in office and making lenses. So this person's job will change. They'll be part fashion designer, part scientist, part optician. And I think that's a fascinating opportunity for all of us to see careers changing because of 3D printing. The part that scares me the most, though, is this slide. I'm not sure if you can see in the upper or the bottom right, there's a gentleman's face there. And what he's doing, he's at home and he's working on some software to build a frame, and you can see that. Now, if you try to do this at home, you'll come out with a frame like this. It's okay, but it's not really optical quality. But if you're able to design that frame and then contact one of these companies called Shapeways, Thingiverse, or Amazon 3D Printing, you'll be able to make a frame that you've designed and have that delivered. And these companies are very serious about what they're doing. These are called service bureaus. They basically can take designs and print them to consumer level quality. And when that happens, everybody in this room has something to be worried about, because the consumer can bypass us completely. And this happens right now. So if you go to any one of those websites, you'll be able to pull down a pair of glasses even if you don't have your own design. Oh, you laughed. I got his attention. Yes, everybody knows this gentleman, and if you don't, but can you tell which pair of glasses he's wearing that have been printed? Because one of them has been printed, and the other not. Now, of course, Dr. Cockrell didn't pose for this one, so I just photoshopped it. All right, he's not endorsing the company. But basically, in the future, you'll never be able to tell the difference between two pairs of glasses when 3D printing comes in. It's going to affect careers. It's going to affect the science of our business. It's going to affect our dispensary. It's going to affect the product. All of that is looming on the horizon right now. And I think it would be wise, regardless of what part of the community you're in, to understand this. Because just like hoverboards were just a dream, or talking on a video phone was just a dream, we know how fast technology is changing. I'm Dave Friedfeld. I think there's one more slide. Doesn't seem to be there. But if you want to reach me at dfriedfeld@cvoptical.com, that's great. I'll be happy to answer any questions you want about 3D printing. Thank you very much for having me here at your event.